Um, you guys mean the world to my dad. He's, you guys mean the world to my dad. He's always said he's not a preacher. He's a Sunday school teacher. He doesn't get up and holler and scream and walk the pulpit and pace the aisle. He lays out his plan, and he gives you his heart every Sunday. Ever since Christmas, he's come up here and, you've seen him break down, you've seen him cry, and you've seen him share his heart with Mom and everything. But you guys keep him going. You guys mean, Saturday nights he stops the world, he goes upstairs, he opens up his Bible, and he wants to bring you guys something on a daily basis. So you guys are very important to Dad. When we learned around Christmas time, Mom had tried to keep it a secret, and she tried to hopefully just kind of fade out and nobody would ever know. She just was hoping that this day would never come and the family wouldn't have to go through this, and it would be a very smooth transition. But when Christmas came around and she couldn't breathe and things were getting out of control and she couldn't contain the situation anymore and she had to go to the hospital, then her little secret came out. And she knew she had to get some help. And it's extremely sad for the family to have to deal with it, but at the same time, she also knew from day one that God was in control. She knew that he wasn't looking down, surprised by all this and wondering how he's going to fix this. He knew that this was all laid out in advance, and we would just have to take the next step. And one of the things she would always mention is that, God doesn't give you your life's plan in front of you. Because some of the reasons why he doesn't do that is because he knows if he tells you everything that you need to do to get from here to there, you would figure out how to try to do that in your own strength. But he says, rather, all he does, he's a light to your path. And she says, it's like a candlelight. All he tells you is what the next step is. It may be a big step, it may be a small step, but that's all he tells you is what the next step is. And she didn't want to have to go through the chemo and all the stuff that, that it does to you. But at the same time, doors are opening up. Insurance plans were able to work out in a way that she was able to get some treatment, and she had a really good doctor that opened up, and it just seemed like, okay, maybe we need to try, for the family's sake, to give it one final push. And it was pretty clear that it wasn't going to happen. And I kept asking from day one, what's the storyline in all this? Whose life's going to be affected by this? And I was pleased to learn many people have come up and told me several ways that Mom was a help and influence in their life. And how, it could have been as simple as one lady told me that her daughter was going through real time and just ready to throw up her arms at Christianity and says, I'm done with all this. And Mom, for some reason, and it was kind of out of character for her, but she pulled her aside, you know what, life sometimes is difficult, but you got to find the strength within to carry on and push on and do what's right because you're supposed to. And that was kind of an eye-opener for her, and she convinced her to, go ahead and go to Christian college and, put her life on track and go ahead. I know one of Mom's greatest joys was anytime there was a shower or a wedding or something like that, she wouldn't give just one nice gift. She'd give her a box of many stuff inside of it. And it was stuff practical things that they needed, silverware, food, if it was a baby, diapers and wet wipes and toys and, just a bunch of little things that nobody really thought about. But it's all the little stuff that nickel and dime you to death. And she had a little closet that was just ready for, whatever came up, she had stuff ready for it. And that was her joy, was to make somebody else happy, because we were 7 people growing up in a house. And that money didn't go very far sometimes. So she did coupons, she did rebates, she did everything she could to kind of try to make that dollar stretch. And we were out of the house and growing before we realized we were poor. We had no idea the struggle and the sacrifices. Well, we kind of did, because when it came rebate time, we had the whole floor covered with coupons and UPC codes, and is this a good one? No, throw that one away. Okay, is this a good one? And, it's a really ordeal once a year every time we go through the rebates. But towards the end, it was always a struggle. Mom knew her fate, and she knew that this was going to happen. The only thing she asked is, just hope that I don't have to struggle. And yesterday was one of the most beautiful days I've ever been through in my life. She had been, and it was hour by hour. One day, it looked like she can go on for another year. The next minute, it was like you didn't know if it was the next minute. It was just, her lungs were compromised, so she was struggling for every breath, but then other times she was able to catch her breath and normal, but then other times she'd have a little bit of anxiety and stress level go up, and she would just struggle for every breath. And yesterday, she had a rough morning. It looked like maybe she would have gone that morning, but then she recovered from that and things were going normal. And then we have an incredible man of God here at the church, and it's evident by, he had called the day before and asked if he can come over. Mom said no. She was a very private lady. She always wanted to have hair and makeup done before anybody saw her. She was just always, one of my cousins said she always had a stiff upper lip. She always just had this way about her, and she always wanted things to be, and that was her philosophy in life. She always had this attitude of, if you're going to do anything at all, and especially if it's for God, you do it to the best of your ability or don't do it at all. And it didn't matter what you did, if it was having somebody over, if it was doing something for the church. When she'd sing music, she would pour over it for 2 weeks at a time, just trying to find the right message, because she wasn't interested in just performing. She wanted the message to be clear and what God had to say in what she sang. So sometimes she'd pour over it for 2 weeks before she finally picked a song that she felt was meaningful. So yesterday she told Pastor no, she wasn't ready. She, didn't have a thing to put on. But yesterday, Pastor calls my sister and she says, probably not a good idea today, but then Dad, unbeknownst, that conversation told Brother Wilkerson, if you want to come over, come over. And it was, you couldn't have timed it any better than it did. Pastor came over. He was able to spend about 5-10 minutes with Dad and just go over the day for today and make sure, do you have everything you need? Are you going to be able to do Sunday school? Can we take that away from you? Are you able to do the buses? And, is there anything that we could do for you? Because he wanted Dad to be there during Mom's final moments. So he's trying to be as accommodating for Dad as he could. And Dad's like, no, I'll come do the buses and everything, but if you can take care of Sunday school, and thank you for being willing to, and I hope you don't mind me. He would have, but I don't think he would have been able to get the first sentence out. I think it would have been too difficult for him. And next week he'll probably share his heart with you guys. But Pastor had just enough time to talk to Dad, and they went in the house, and he told Miss Gail, we're praying for you. We know it's going to be any day now, or any minute now by that time, and we're excited about this week. We're excited for missions conference, and all of a sudden he just started singing, and he sang about heaven. And he went through the heavenly choral, and he sang about 5 or 6 songs, and then he told Mom, he sang Mom the hymn song for the theme song for the missions conference, and as he began to sing, she started tapping her foot like she was listening. And we didn't know what was going on at the time. And in fact, we couldn't believe it was happening, but she just started getting relaxed. And before we knew it, it was over. It was the most peaceful time that you could have prayed for. It was, you could definitely tell the Spirit of the Lord was there. And Pastor didn't realize what was going on at the time. And it was, when he got done singing, that was it. And you couldn't have timed it, you couldn't have scripted it, if you were writing a story, you couldn't have planned it any better than it did. So you did have elements of sadness there, but at the same time, you just knew that this was the Lord's timing. And you knew she was in a better place, because she told us that from day one. And that's probably the biggest blessing through all this, is that we didn't have to convince Mom that where she's going is a better place. And we didn't have to convince her of heaven and, she's going to go see Jesus. And even my brothers and sisters, we didn't have to convince each other that Mom's going to a better place. We all knew. We were all on the same page. We knew exactly the way Mom felt, and we knew exactly the way each other felt. So it was just an extremely peaceful transition. And you couldn't have asked for it any better than the way it went. I asked from day one, what's the storyline through all this? What are we going to take away from this? And I don't know if we'll know anytime soon, and I've even said before, this may be the final chapter in a book that was already written. Mom has influenced a lot of people, and maybe the people that she's touched, maybe they're the ones that carry on the torch and become something. You just never know. I know Dad's given the illustration before of Mr. Kimball and how he was a Sunday school teacher, and he was thinking about this boy, and he influenced this boy that ended up going on to be D.L. Moody. And then D.L. Moody ended up influencing other people, and by the end of the story, you have hundreds of millions of people become saved by this one Sunday school teacher that reached out to this one boy. And I think that's true in Mom's case. We don't know who that person is yet, and we don't know if the light's ready to shine on that person yet. We just know that she did what she could, and she helped the people that she could, and it was a very exciting time yesterday, at the same time sad, and it will be sad, and Dad especially in the days to come, because we just, the youngest brother, Doug, just got married in June. So he was the last person to move out the house, and then you had Mom. And when the dust settles and everybody goes home and everybody settles in, Dad's gonna end up going back to an empty house, completely empty. And it's the ultimate term for empty nest. So he's gonna be extremely lonely. It's gonna be, his days are yet to come. Right now he's got the support of his family. All 5 of us are here. Later on in the week, we'll probably end up going up to Indiana, and I'm sure a lot of people up there will wrap our arms around him and, give him the love and support. But when he comes home, that's going to be the time where he's going to be the most vulnerable, and that's the time he's going to need your prayers especially. You guys are basically his family. Like I say, he looks forward to every Sunday coming up here, and he spends a lot of time preparing his lessons, and he shares his heart when he talks to you guys. So I know you guys are just the people to come to him when he's going to need it the most.